Tonight we're going to look at getting started with Affinity Photo. This is following the PowerPoint that we had the other night where we looked at using this as a basic program. So we're going to have a look at how you can download this program. Then we're going to look at some of the basic adjustments that you can do and how to navigate through. Then getting rid of some of those dirt spots or sensor spots on your photos so they're nice and tidy. And then we're going to learn how to crop it to the aspect ratio that you would like and then export it. To download Affinity, you go to Affinity Studio/download and choose whether you have a Mac or a desktop. So I chose my Windows and I have an AMD, so I chose that, and you click download and up comes a window. You just download, save. So from there you just install. It may ask you to download and set up through your Canva account. These Canva accounts are free, so just set yourself up with a Canva account and that will allow you to set up the program easily. There are several ways of opening the photo. One of the easiest is just to find your photo, right-click on it, and then from the list select the program that you wish to open your photo with. In this case, that would be Affinity, and voila, the photo opens. Your other option is to find your Affinity program and open it up. So once it opens, we can see up the top here we have the recent photos that we have worked on. So we can click into one of those if we wish, or we can go up here and click open, and then from there it will guide us through to the folder where we've saved our photos. And here is the Affinity style photo, here is my raw photo, and here is my JPEG photo. I just click on that and then click open. Here we have our workspace. This is my lens. This is the aspect ratio, the size of the image, and the color space. We're working in pixel, and these are the things that we can do. So to start off with, these yellows in the background are quite distracting. The colour of the flower is quite muted, and I could do with bringing up the shadows. So in Canva, these are called personas. So we're going to go into the develop persona. Now, if you were opening a photo in RAW, you would automatically enter this persona. So over here, we have exposure. I already said this was a little dark, so let's see what happens if we just increase the exposure a bit. The exposure increases the lightness on the flower, but also it increases the lightness of the background. And down here, we have our histogram, where this is the whites, and we don't want to overblow our whites. And these are our blacks, and we don't want too much of the photo in black. Let's carry on. Our black point. If we want our black point to be blacker, we can go like this, and that blue shows that we have clipped our black points. That means there's no information in those black points. But if we move it this way, it brings that black point off the edge of the histogram, right? And now the brightness does the same thing for the whites. If I go towards the white end, you can see the red showing where I've clipped the whites. And if we go down to the black, you can see the histogram here comes off the white edge. We might drop it just a little bit. Contrast. This is where you need to be a bit careful because people might think you need lots of contrast, but what the contrast does is it pushes the colours out to the ends and it spreads it. If we go the other way, it brings that histogram right in. See this histogram coming right in, and everything looks quite muted. So generally, I tend to leave that alone, or maybe 1% or 2% in either direction. Next, we have clarity. So this is where you can get some increase in your sharpness. This is light contrast, but it's just a little more subtle. So can we see if I really push it up, we're getting some clarity, but we're also getting some overblown highlights. So I wouldn't tend to push it that high, but I would have it go up a bit, and that increases some of that sharpness in that flower. And the texture just brings out some more of that finer detail. And again, as you can see, it gets really nice and crisp. You don't want it too crisp because what you'll see is around these edges, you'll get sort of like a black and white line. White on the lighter side and black on the darker side. So again, use it with caution. So probably about that much is enough to bring out that beautiful sharpness in the textures in those petals. Right, saturation. Now saturation increases the overall colour of the whole photo. So if we go right up, everything in the photo has been saturated with colour, which looks great on the flower, but over here with these yellow bits, not so great. So let's bring that down and we'll leave it maybe there. Vibrance. Now vibrance is good where you have colours that you want to bring out, but they're not all over. So it'll just bring out some of those minor colours. So see, it might just bring out some of these magentas in the petals, but it might also hit these yellows over here. So just be a bit subtle with that too. From there we go down to white balance, and each of these you'll see you can close them when you're finished. So we've done exposure and we've done enhance. So next we can do the white balance. So if you go the blue, it becomes colder, and if you go yellow, it becomes warmer. In this case, I quite like it just a little bit cooler than it was. The tint, so if we go this way, we're making it more green. And if we go this way, we're making it more pink. So in this case, we're going to increase the pink a bit. Another way of doing this is if you have black and white in your photo, you can try and get the white to look more white. These are those shadows and highlights you always hear the judges talking about. So when we look at this photo, it was taken with quite a bit of sun and there's quite a few shadows. So let's see if we can just bring up some of the detail in those shadows. And as you see, it hits the background more than it hits the flower. And then the highlights, we might want to darken some of those highlights, and that tends to hit the flower and washes it out. So given that we already adjusted our white point and our black point, there's not a lot of reason in this photo to change those blacks and whites. Next is the lens and the lens profile. And we already saw before what the lens was. And because this is a JPEG, it hasn't added the lens profile to it. It's assumed that the camera, when it took the photo, added a lens profile. And sometimes that means that there's a bit of distortion because of the lens, or there might be a little bit of chromatic aberration, and it will fix that. So in this case, we don't really need to do a lens correction. If we see any fringing, that's just where you get the purpley or these sort of cyan-y colours here around the edge. So we don't have a problem with that. Sometimes the lens can cause a dark sort of circle around the outside, and we could remove that. In this case, that's not a problem. Here, we can add that dark. So I could intensify it, or I can, and see how when I add that, that's what a vignette is. I would never add that much, but I might want to add just to darken off those corners. Now, if I crop this, then it will automatically do it on the edge of where I've cropped it. Okay? Other things you can do is you can convert it to black and white. So if I was to convert this to black and white, I might want to turn those yellows darker. Might want to darken some of those pinks as well. And the greens, see, and we can almost have that popping out against that background by adjusting these different colours. But we're not going to do a black and white photo of my lovely pink flower. Curves, these affect the light and dark tones in the colour. So it's not affecting each individual colour, we're just affecting the whole photo. So anything that is here on the histogram, I can make that darker. Or I can make it lighter, see? And anywhere that's here on the histogram, I can bring that, just lighten that up a bit. Right, so then once we have finished doing that, and we're satisfied with what we have done, Now remember, this is a JPEG. If this had been a raw image, there's a lot more we could have done because there would be a lot more information there to play around with. But for now, we're just showing you some of these basic settings that we can have a little play around with. Okay? So then you have to hit develop. Remember we had develop to get into this. Now we're hitting develop to get back out. And out we are. Next, I want to zoom in a little. Going up here. And you'll see there's a few just little white spots here and a little mark here. And so we can go here and use our clone brush tool. And I hold Alt, click, and then I click there and it gets rid of it. Click there and it gets rid of it. And we can do another one here. You can just go round. I always zoom in just to check, because I do know I have dust spots on my. So see, I just go round. So they do have healing tools over here, and so you could use a Blemish tool, and that does it as well. Not always perfect, but it does the job. Yeah, just gets rid of a few of these spots, and that's that. Okay, so let's zoom back out again, and we did that down here. Okay, we zoom back out. There's the whole picture, and we need to deal with the background. So this program has layers. Right, we're going to use a select tool, and the select tool we're going to choose is up here. And if we right click on these buttons, we get more options. And I like using the selection brush tool. So there it is, there's the size of the brush. And this here means it's going to snap to the edges. And I can brush this background like this. And see, it basically selects the whole background, except it's picked up a little bit of the flower there. So I can go up here, this is subtract, this is add, subtract, and I just click on that and it picks it up. Just go around, I don't think it's missed any other bits. Right, once I have that, I can go to my adjustment, and this will create an adjustment layer and a mask. And I want to, I'll show you. So we're going to go up to brightness contrast and watch what happens. So there's my mask. And there's the brightness contrast, and I can reduce the brightness on that. I can also reduce the contrast. And that kind of dulls it down a bit. So it's quite a handy tool. Now once I've done that, I've got a blend mode. So if I wanted to, I could overlay. And when I overlay, it makes the darks, when I overlay, it makes darks darker, but it tends to make the lights lighter. So that's probably not a good one. I can go all the way up here, and I can choose multiply, which is going to darken it even more, or I can just burn it in, and then I'd have a completely back. So I just want to darken it a bit. Maybe I'll multiply, and then I can choose how opaque it is. So I can say, oh, just dial that back a bit to maybe 50%. Okay? And then if I want to do another one, because I still want to get rid of some of these bright colours, I can go, I can close it. I can add another adjustment layer, and this time I am looking for the vibrance, right? And I want to choose the saturation. Just drop it down a bit, especially the vibrancy. Okay, and that's going to tone down some of those colours, so I have that done. And I can, again, I can choose to lighten, darken, overlay, whatever I like, but I quite just like it how it is. So we have addressed most of the background. Now let's have a look at the flower, and let's try and bring out some of the pink colours in the flower. So if I hold Control, Shift and hit I, the selection now changes to the flower. And I can go back into those adjustments, and let's go back to the vibrancy. And it's just up the flower colour, right? There we go. It looks lovely. And it's so simple, we've just increased the pink a little bit. And we can go in here, we could overlay, and see you'll get that really sharp look. I often use soft light because it's not quite as harsh. Colour dodge will lighten it, and so will lighten. Multiply is going to, of course, darken it. And you've got things like hue and saturation and colour, but we don't need any of those. We'll just leave it on normal. And if we wanted to, we could like decrease the effect, increase the effect. Let's just leave it at that. So the last thing we want to do is to crop this into a nice shape. First of all, we need to deselect. So Control D will deselect, and then we go to our crop tool, which is here. We have a choice up here. You've got your thirds grids, you've got your phi grid, which is just a bit skinnier, your golden spiral, and your diagonals. So let's keep on the thirds grid. Right, at the moment it's unconstrained, which means I can just go like this, and I can just see I can move by just grabbing onto the sides. If I want to twist it, I can turn, but can you see what happens when I turn it? Yeah. So let's say if I just turned it a little bit. And if I wanted to, I can keep it at the custom ratio, or I can change it, or I can use a preset. Now, a common preset might be 1 by 1. It gives me my square, and look here, there's nothing here, so I would need to come in and come in so that I don't end up having areas with nothing in them. So there's a lovely square crop, and we've managed to get rid of most of those yellow distractions that were there by cropping them out, which is always a handy thing to do. So we will go up here, click apply, and there is our photo. The last thing we want to do is, if we're going to enter this in a competition, we need to export it. So if I go up here to edit, I can choose how I want to export. So I want it the best quality. Now remember, I'm going to here we go. I want the whole document, not just that. Right. So If you remember, we've now got a square, and the maximum height for our competitions is 2160, and I enter that, and it changes, right? So this is going to be the new height. And then I can, and I've chosen JPEG, and I can export. And I can give it a name, pink color, and it's going to go into my file, save. And there it is. There's our finished example.